Hello, my name is Derk Steemers. Nie mówię po polsku, jestem z Holandii. So I just want to kind of introduce you. How Mario said that he doesn't like to talk about things that he doesn't know anything about. I just kind of want to show, show that I'm a legitimate person to talk about this. So right now I help Arkley when it comes to their communication, when it comes to attracting new startups to apply for us. Everything that's digital, whether it's emails, bothering you, spamming you with invites for this event and the next one, to whatever you have, social media. If I've been following and unfollowing you on Twitter, that's me. And on top of that, I also mentor our startups and help them out and getting into the right direction. For instance, one of my first assignments was being sent off to Valencia to join the guys in Testback, eat paella, and help them with marketing. So before this, I was working in marketing at Place I Live, which is a failed, as you can see, Lithuanian startup. And being there in such a small scene, I was obviously also helping out a lot of the other local startups. And basically, between the time that I was working at Place I Live and now working for Arkley, I've been advising or consulting a lot of different startups in the Netherlands, Germany, Eastern Europe, just kind of talking about it with people, because somehow people tend to find me and value my opinion. My roots kind of come from social media. I've been doing that for companies in Austria. Lomography, if any of you are hipster and like analog companies or analog cameras, you know about them. And a random e-marketing firm in Brussels. So I also really know about, local stuff. For instance, how Belgians they take up technology less quickly than people in Pakistan. Also, the people in the south tend to really believe clickbait. So if you say, no one will believe this, then balloons will actually not believe it. And people up north are already, they speak a different language. They look towards the Netherlands. They're slightly more tech savvy. My real roots come from Texters. Texters was probably a startup, I don't really know. We were a skateboard magazine, the biggest one in the Netherlands, and we made about 15,000 euros, of which 12,000 went to sake and sushi. The other 3,000 was invested in tours and equipment. So you understand that we were not very good business people. But we had a lot of fun though with it. So here I was shooting photos, directing people, attracting new people to work for us, just generally making sure something happens. So branding, why this topic? Obviously, I can talk about a lot of different things. I mean, with C-Morph now being in The Verge, which is a big thing. I can talk about PR, which is obviously a lot more sexy because we're going to keep it very dry today. But I think this is a fundamental flaw that a lot of startups, that maybe up to 90% of startups that really fail within their very first few months, they get this part wrong. Because it is one of the most important questions. You have to ask that one right at the very beginning when you get your idea. Who are you? A lot of startups, they tend to flip-flop who they are, which direction they want to go to. And that's actually understandable, which I will explain later. But you shouldn't. So to kind of understand why branding, deciding who you are, is so extremely important, I want to take you through a basic or ideal situation what you take your startup through if things go well. So you get your idea or hypothesis. So for instance, with Mario, that was that he wanted to put clean energy into, he wanted to make energy mobile, and solar power was the way to do this. By the way, if you want to take photos, we're totally going to put all of this on SlideShare. So, just relax, drink your beer, get a new one. I don't mind. You can walk in, walk out. You can heckle. It's fine. I like a good discussion, So you have your idea. Mario says, I want to make energy mobile. Everything is mobile, but somehow my mobile phone ends up dying at the worst possible moments. All right, so he has this idea. This is the moment that he decides who he is, because he's going to execute something. He's going to execute this idea, and he needs to stick with this idea. So you build it, and they don't necessarily will come. This sometimes can take a while, but eventually you'll find your early adopters, your beta testers, the first people that work with it. So this is the moment you're going to get a lot of legitimate feedback on your product, because people can actually use it. It breaks. your prototypes tend to break. Things happen. But eventually you get there. And you fix it, you find this market fit, and this is the moment that you grab your idea and you freaking run like hell. Because this is the moment that you scale, this is the moment that you're finally going to feel that all those 80-hour work weeks are worth it, the endless dry noodles, the whatever have you, that's now worth it. So if this is the case, your branding simply consists of your hypothesis, the problem that you're solving, and that that this problem is solved through your specific product. So it's not that, I want to make energy mobile. No, the test pack backpacks, the test pack mini. That is the way how to solve this product of my phone dying, my not finding a socket in a coffee shop while you're working, while traveling. Your product is your branding. I will go a little bit more in depth on that a little bit later, but your product is who you are. And eventually, it's also your vision because, especially as you can see with TestPack, it's about it's more than just the backpack or the power bank with a solar panel on top of it. For instance, with Lovely, somehow people always start to giggle when you mention Lovely. I like that. As Mario said, when people don't talk about you, that's a bad sign. And giggling is kind of cute anyway. So with Lovely, they have a vision that they want to improve people's sex lives, which is a very awesome thing to work on, I'd say. So, common mistakes. I think it's safe to say that hardware people want to, startups in general, but hardware is a bit more susceptible to this, I suppose, is that they want to do too much at the same time. Because the people who build hardware products, they are very much focused on building this one product that they think is amazing, and they're perfectionists about it. And the moment that you focus too much on wanting to do too much, it's just going to go the wrong direction. So you need to focus. And you won't need to stay and work on that one original idea that you had. But it's understandable that people want that when you have your startup, that you want to start working on all these different things, not just because, or these not necessary, unnecessary features that you are thinking about. Because when you first start your product or you start building it, you're being pushed in every direction. With Place I Live, we were working mostly within the US, and suddenly there was a client that was talking that they wanted something similar in Australia, which was in no way a viable option for us to really grow. But because they offered such a large amount of money, and Lithuania still being in the place that they are, they were blinded by the amount of money that they were offered. So they kind of wanted to put their company on hold in order to, make this separate product for the Australian possible client. At the same time, you have your friends. They tell you like, hey, dude, like I really like what you're doing here, but I don't like this feature. Then you have people at events who tell you something. There are people who will blatantly just say, yeah, everything is fine, which is not a good thing. Being critical is far more valuable, I'd say, even if it sometimes hurts. Or maybe that's me just being Dutch. So in this situation, when you're being pushed and pulled in every direction, obviously it's very scary to stick with that one idea that you believe in. See, Piotr really catches the atmosphere. He's getting his beer, he's getting his pizza, and he can actually listen to me say this every day. So, he has the luxury to walk away. So, all right. So it's scary to stick to that one idea. Then when you work with hardware, it's a lot about it is very technical. And when people start creating their persona of their startup, they get into the technical specifications, which for me doing marketing is absolutely not relevant. I remember that Jessica from TestPack wanted to convince me about the technical possibilities that the backpack had and the power bank that's in there. And she started talking about milliamps. To this day, I still don't know what those are. And maybe that's because I'm just stupid, which is a very large possibility. Yes, it's power. But the thing is that if you translate that into something that I can actually use, like for instance, that with an hour of sunlight, walking around with the test pack backpack, you can charge your phone from 0 to 100%. I mean, that's something I can use. That's tangible. That's what consumers want. Whereas the millions is for the technical people. Then sometimes you just don't really know what it is. I think with Place I Live, we changed what our brand was about 6-7 times, because when I arrived and they were already working on this for over a year and they had 2 seat rounds, it was apparently still my job to decide what the company was while showing up on the first day. So this is not what you should do, just to be clear on this. And another very maybe a pain point here, but as Slavic languages don't really translate well to English, the moment you make one stupid thing, like you say, you could for instance say something like, yes, we are the biggest player in the Europe. That's the moment that people just kind of lose interest, which is harsh, but it's, it happens. Next one, yes. So how should my branding look like? So we're getting at where you're, how can you actually use my talk? Because so far I've been mostly negative. You need to find something you believe in, something that you're willing to die for, and then run with it. Let nothing distract you. Take all the advice that you can, like Mario already mentioned, but never steer away from your original idea. If you want to make backpacks, make backpacks. If people tell you, no, backpacks are a stupid idea, you can take that into consideration. But if you are so desperately convinced about your idea, then go for it. And that's what founders need to be. So I'm now going to explain some sort of let's call it a marketing history. So I'm going to, this is an oversimplification of what actually happened. But historically, there have been 2 types of marketing. One which is based on the product, and the second one is more so on association. So the original one is products. So I'm pretty sure that people remember cigarette ads for your doctors, like most doctors smoke Camel, or Lucky Strike has the best flavor. That's how marketing used to be. It used to be about how good the product was, about what it did. That was mostly so in the beginning of the previous century. And why do hardware startups, but startups in general, use this type of marketing? Well, probably you're building something that doesn't exist yet. I mean, the helmet we just saw was pretty new, I'd say. And people don't know about it yet. So you need to actually explain to people what the product is. Then maybe this is already a cliche, but as Peter Thiel says in his book, you need to be 10 times better than someone else. And that doesn't come from, associating yourself with a fresh and young image. It comes from showing the product and showing how good it is. And you're looking for early adopters. They don't care if they look cool with it. They want to use something new and exciting. So the second one, which is newer, which started in the 50s, if I'm correct, is more so about marketing a product based on an external factor, which is invisible in the product. And again, I'd like to take cigarettes, because this is actually the very first product that was marketed this way. When the suffragettes were fighting for equal rights in the US, one marketeer said, you know what would be funny? What if we would give them cigarettes? Not only was that very kind of them, because maybe they would have actually liked to smoke, but at the same time, these women were causing a real ruckus in the US. So while they were doing this, they were smoking. And these photos showed up in the newspapers, and people realized, like, hey, wait, smoking is something rebellious, it's freedom, it's, it's something positive. And ever since then, big firms have been using this type of marketing. I mean, when you buy Nike, you don't buy Nikes, you don't buy the shoes, you buy the association that you get when you wear Nikes. You're apparently cooler than if you wear Adidas or any other of their competitors. The reason why they can do this and startups don't, or cannot do it, is because there's no product differentiation. So for instance, a pair of Nikes or a pair of Adidas or New Balance, they're all going to be about the same quality. There's not, like, they have slight differences, they have slight advantages, but like the last one says, when Nike comes out with a new insole, I really don't care, because it's not revolutionary the same way that hardware startups are revolutionary. And these products have already found a market fit. So when I walk into Foot Locker and I want to buy shoes, which rarely happens, but fair enough, because I go to a skate store and I support my local homies who are working there. Although I buy plenty of crap I could actually buy there and I buy it somewhere else. Nevertheless, when I walk into, let's say I walk into the skate shop, my friend doesn't need to convince me about the fact that I need shoes. I already know I want shoes because I use them every day. And everyone knows that they need shoes, except for maybe some hippies, but that's a different story. So they have market fit, which is where startups don't have. So there is a hybrid that's possible. So for instance, with TestBack, we are focusing on calling them the future of energy. So you can mix your vision with the product, especially if you're already combining products that are already available, like the backpack, helmets, but you're pushing them to another level. So now I'm going to kind of have like a little summary of everything you can put your branding into, or where you need to be consistent. Because if you're not consistent, you are not going to be taken seriously. So for instance, if Lovely, who is focusing on being, a nice household name, it's cute, it's more so cuddling than it is sex, maybe even. The moment that they would start and work with a hardcore bondage firm, it would seem slightly out of place, I'd say. So this is what I mean with consistency. And all these things that I'm going to list now, which is way too long, you need to still be consistent. And this is why marketing actually, it's more than just being able to say like, hi, I have a product. Hi, my name is TestBack, Lovely, Bifrost. Just wanted to put those guys in there. And this is my product. It's more than that. So visual branding, which is probably right now the most important. So these are every type of photo, video, GIFs, if you'd like. I'm very impressed with how Lovely incorporates GIFs. And your website, everything that you do visually, that is going to represent your brand. So the colors that you use, so with TestBack, with especially the backpacks, it's yellow or black, and now with it's more so purple. And those colors need to be, they need to be recognizable. The tone, so this also kind of goes into colors, but also the aggressiveness of the images or the video. A certain type of aesthetic. This is more so maybe recognizable in fashion brands, where some are very high-end brands, even though they're still made for less than $10 in Singapore, in Bangladesh, and others are very. The aesthetic of other brands are far more cheap and accessible. Your style, obviously, I don't think I need to explain this too much. The message, very important. Lovely would have been a very different company if it actually did have a message that was more so aimed at the hardcore bondage scene than just normal, just the normal, normal couples who just like to try something new. Your audience obviously influences everything. Same thing as I mentioned for your message. Then formal, you can choose to be formal or informal. This obviously, that's an important factor. And then actually something that is slightly, I think is very interesting to kind of just touch for a little bit is lo-fi versus professional. So startups want to do everything for no money because that's kind of how it goes. That's what you have to work with. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can do everything. If you want to produce professional video, like the guys at Sophie Studio, it costs money. If you don't have the money for that, but you need to work a lot with video, you need to find some sort of way how to do this or learn this amazingly well. In startup terms, you generally have less than a day, so good luck with that. But at the same time, there's a lot happening within lo-fi marketing that's really cool. For instance, Bronze 56K, which is originally a nuts and bolt company for skateboards. So this is the least interesting part about a skateboard because we all collect them off the floor in skate shops. We never pay money for this. But actually, this became a fashion brand that works with huge other brands because they make videos where they use old modem dial-up sounds old jingles from 90s Comcast advertisements. They kind of use a bit of like vaporwave, so which is music that kind of makes fun of the 90s, and they film with pretty shitty cameras, and that actually creates an aesthetic that makes them one of the coolest brands out there, you could say. So you can work with it, but it needs to fit your company. So when it comes to writing just really like the actual message, I'm pretty sure by now you're familiar with this man called Donald Trump. He is probably the king at this because he uses vocabulary that a 4-year-old can use and can understand. His tone of voice is very angry, which is very primal, so everyone can get that. And believe me, if you live in Shitsville, Arizona, and you have no money and no job and there's no safety net, you are probably angry too. His sentence length is extremely short, and he repeats everything again because, you know, he has the best fingers and, you know, they're really terrific. So, you know, he repeats a lot, so it's very understandable for his audience. And topics, angles, perspectives, again, you know, for lovely topics that are more, you know, accessible, and topics that might be a bit more perverted. Let's keep those separated. And the structure, I just wanted to put that in there because a lot of people kind of forget about that when they start writing. So product branding. The design of your product actually says a lot about your brand as well. I mean, let's face it, the helmet that Mario just showed it looked really nice. It looked very sporty. It looked very adventurous. Whereas he could have also taken a helmet that's more adjacent to, let's say, an old Vespa helmet, which very nice as well, but that probably does far less well for motorcyclists or snowboarders, or it's less attractive. Packaging, very important again. Like if you have a children's toy, it needs to have bright colors. It needs to be something that you want to grab off the shelves. Whereas other companies, it might not be as important. The materials, obviously, if the helmet from Testback that Mario just showed us was very fuzzy on the top, it would probably be less badass than it is now, or at least appears on the video. Shapes, again, same thing. Functionalities, very important because the functionalities and features of your product they define who you are. And product expansion. So what is going to be the next step? I think this says a lot about how progressive, how much potential you have as a company as well. There are plenty of examples of companies that start off with something really cool, and then their second product or their expansion is just, it loses that same ambition, that drive, that wow factor. And that kind of kills the company as well. Not because the product is bad, but because it doesn't deliver up to the expectations. And as Tomasz from Zmorv already mentioned, customer service is a huge freaking thing. And very undervalued because not only is it generally what we all do while we're studying and we need money, and because they're always looking for people, but the attitude that you show through your customer service is fundamental. Tomasz already kind of went into that topic, but if you kind of move downwards to SCRM, which is Social Customer Relationship Management, you have no clue how many companies end up with a train wreck on Twitter, and you just kind of want to slap them in the face. I've actually done a lot of this as an intern, and the results you get out of being nice and having people see you as an actual person instead of being this distant entity, it does wonders for sales. Just by doing that, it's phenomenal. How you deal with feedback as well, like as I mentioned, stay true to your original purpose. But that doesn't mean that you have to be a bad person when you get feedback that might be negative. Also to choose to react to which feedback is in the end branding. And in the end, it's business development. Like I said, which products are going to come next? Which markets do you want to target? Do you want to target that one strange client in Australia, or is somehow Lebanon your marketplace? Could very well be.